As we've said before, jazz comes in many styles and flavors. In this installment of Building Blocks of Jazz, Phil Dunlap and his guest Matt Henry take the jazz sound south of the border as they discuss Latin rhythm.
Hello, and welcome to the Building Blocks of Jazz. My name is Phil Dunlap, and I'm the Director of Education for Jazz St. Louis. And on today's segment, we're going to talk all about Latin jazz and Latin percussion. And to help me with that, I brought a very good friend of mine, Mr. Matt Henry, Director of Percussion Studies at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and leader of St. Louis's finest salsa band, Musica Slesa. Matt, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start out by talking about the history of this type of music in America.
The history of this music in America is really rich, and the passion in this music began to develop in New Orleans, much like jazz did. And it traveled from New Orleans north, but also to New York City, where people developed this style that we know as salsa. And that salsa is a hot, fiery sound, and that's how we get this energy into salsa music, which is dance music, and then it developed into Latin jazz, which is more of an art music like jazz is, more of a listening style.
Two of the most important instruments in Latin music are the clave and the conga. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about these instruments?
Well, the clave, which the instruments that you have there, clave translates into key. It's the key to the music. And much like we have a backbeat or 2 and 4 in the United States in popular music and in jazz, clave is what they listen to in Latin music. So there are a number of different patterns in clave, and it's important to know in Latin jazz that everything revolves around clave, and they call that being in clave. This instrument is the conga, and unlike the modern drum set, which developed in the last 100 years or so in this country, this instrument is much, much older, and we do not play it with sticks, we play it with hands. And how they do that is not necessarily simple, but you can see here that we have 3 different tones. One is the low tones, one is the open tone, and one is the slap, which is the loudest sound. And they use these 3 tones to combine and make melodies. And the melody that you heard on the introduction is called tumbao, and it sounds like this. So that rhythm creates a melody.
So Matt, why don't you show me how these are used?
Absolutely. These are claves, as you know. There are 2 patterns on clave. We're going to talk about just one of them today. So the first pattern we're going to do is called son clave, and that sounds like this. Now, that's son clave. It's important to know that there are 2 ways to play son clave. They call it 3-2 or 2-3. Can you conduct 4-4 for me?
Sure.
And I'll show you what 3-2 is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 3 notes in the first measure, 2 in the second. We can also do that in 2-3. So we play 2 notes in the first measure and 3 in the second. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 notes in the first measure, 3 in the second.
So this is how the 2 instruments sound together.
3, 4.
So thanks for joining us today on the Building Blocks of Jazz. Tune in next time, and we're going to talk about how these instruments and these rhythms translate into the modern day drum set.